Thanks for listening to the AI for Sales podcast with host Chad Burmeister. This episode is brought to you by BDR.ai, Nooks.ai, and ZoomInfo, the go-to market intelligence platform. Nooks.ai is the agent workspace for intelligent outbound. By pairing human judgment with AI execution, reps focus on relationships, not busy work. Join Intercom, Deal, and over 1,200 customers who use Nooks AI dialing, coaching, or multi-channel AI sequencing to double their pipeline. And ZoomInfo gives your revenue teams the data and insights they need to find, engage, and win their best customers, helping you move faster, work smarter, and grow revenue at scale. Want an introduction to one of our sponsors? Head to www.scr.ai/intro and unlock your direct line to more closable pipeline, powered by AI. Until next time, keep leading the AI for sales revolution, and remember, in sales, time kills deals. But in AI for sales, AI kills time.
Welcome back to another AI for Sales podcast. I'm Chad Burmeister, your host, and today we are with Steve Brown. Steve is a leading voice in the conversation on artificial intelligence, a former executive at Google, DeepMind, and Intel. He's delivered hundreds of engaging, information-rich keynotes across 5 continents, inspiring audiences to take action with AI. And man, Steve, I like to think of AI as augmented intelligence instead of artificial. So I'd love to see if you're on board with that concept today. But man, Steve, great to have you on board.
Glad to be here. And yeah, if it's done right, it should be augmented intelligence, right? We should be looking to use AI not to replace humans, but to elevate them and to amplify them. So I think about it as amplified intelligence, augmented intelligence, sometimes simulated intelligence. But yeah, I think we should be looking at it as a partner to us and not something to replace us, which makes it about augmentation.
Yes, amplified, accelerated. There's all kinds of ways to think about. Yeah. So amazing. Well, the first question I always love to ask, and we're gonna take the questions and we're gonna throw them in the trash basket today, and we're just gonna make this podcast up as we go, because we've got a true AI expert of 30 years here today. So think about the transformation effect of AI. And usually I ask it of how does it transform the customer experience? Think about how has it transformed our lives as buyers, as customers? You know, what are we seeing? How are our lives getting better because of AI?
Well, AI is an empowering technology in many ways, right? It empowers you to do things you couldn't do before. You can do research at scale now. So we think about empowering AI salespeople to help them sell better, more efficiently and effectively. But now you're having to deal with AI-powered buyers, and they have the ability to research every product, every brand, every offering, and compare them and look at pros and cons and have the AI do that for them in a matter of moments. So they are now armed with all this additional information. So on the buy side, it's almost like an arms race now between the buy side and the sell side of any transaction, where people are using AI to empower themselves and to give themselves the upper edge. And so you're going to see this constant arms race as the buy side and the sell side compete with each other in a way to get the upper hand.
Yeah, we just booked a trip to Greece, and I posted on LinkedIn, and I have like 30,000 people on LinkedIn. So I said, hey, just so I don't miss anything, tell me about it. Well, Meanwhile, in the GPT and Gemini universe, I'm going out saying, tell me about it. And so I know all there is to know about Greece, and sure enough, people are posting and they're telling me things on LinkedIn. And I'm like, yeah, I already knew that. And traditionally the LinkedIn Unisphere would have told me things that I had no idea about. And now because of my GPT experience, I knew it all. And there was maybe 1 or 2 things that I couldn't have gotten from GPT that came to me. But generally speaking, 98% of everything that I needed to know, I actually knew before.
Yeah, it's a great way to become more informed. I use it when I have a query come in. I'm a professional speaker. I get people asking me to come to their events all the time. And the first thing I would do when I would get a sales lead in is go and check out who's this person, what's the position in the company that they're at, who's the company, what size of company is it. And now I have an AI agent that does all of that for me. So on the sales side of things, I'm better informed when I have my first conversation my digital agent has gone and scored that lead, pulled all that information from LinkedIn and the web and assembled it in a neat little form that makes it easy for me to be informed and go into that meeting well prepared.
Talk to me about the different technologies that are out there, Grok and GPT and Gemini and all the things that are going on. How do you stay abreast of which one that you're supposed to be doing? Is there a Trivago for GPT yet?
Maybe. You could argue Perplexity is trying to be that. Perplexity is trying to be the AI search layer, and they sit on top of a bunch of LLMs, so they large language models. So underneath Perplexity is ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and they route the query dependent on which of the underlying engines it thinks will give it the best results, and sometimes it's multiple. So that's the closest to a Trivago that's out there. But let's still look at the bigger picture. I don't use Grok. I find that it's got an ideological bent that I don't want. The same way I wouldn't use DeepSeek, which is a Chinese large language model that has an ideological bent in there. So I tend to focus my time personally on ChatGPT and Gemini, particularly for anything that's visual. I'll use Gemini. They seem to have the upper hand there. But this is a game where they're all trying to outdo each other. So over time, the best large language model to use today could be different than the one that was the best to use yesterday. But that's the sort of backward-looking picture. Where we're going next is building on top of the core technology, these frontier large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini, to build agents, artificial intelligence agents. And you can think about them as wrapping 4 features around that core agent. The ability to perceive, so they understand your context. They can, if they're running on your laptop, for example, they would see what you're working on right now. They have a memory, so they can understand your context and understand your preferences. So they get to tune themselves to you and what you like and don't like. And they also use that memory to learn from their own mistakes. So they get better over time. They have a planning module. It's the third module, so they can reason their way through a complex task that you give it and break that task down into subtasks. And then they execute against that using the action module. So they can use tools, you can connect them to corporate systems so that they can actually get work done. When you do that, you put those 4 modules around the core of a large language model to create an agent. You now essentially have a digital employee at your beck and call. And that's what 2026 and 2027 are all about, is we're all going to get digital assistants, digital employees that work for us. And the nature of work changes. We move from largely doing the work to now designing and overseeing the work, and it's done by agents on our behalf for us. So that's what's happening next.
Yeah. So if I've seen this myself for the last even 5 years, and there's this one product that has an AI employee that will do the LinkedIn outreach and then even responses, and it handles everything. And it's funny because I've only had one, because I've got 100 licenses that do manual LinkedIn stuff, but then I have one AI employee. And I only let it do my podcast bookings because I was like, I don't want it to tinker with all these other areas of the world, but I'm going to let it do my podcast booking. And it booked so many guests for me that I was like, slow down. I can't have this many guests on my podcast. And so I actually turned off the AI employee because it was too good.
They're too good.
It was too good.
Yeah, they're relentless, right?
It was relentless, right? It just was too good. And so how do you hire one of these AI employees or agents? You know, is it like, can you go Google it and say, I want an AI agent, or what is this? How do you get it?
Yeah, so here's where we are in the grand arc of agents, right? 2025 was the year that people started talking about them and where the technology building blocks were put in place. 2020 and people started building them. So we're now in the period of time where both the big tech giants and also when I say tech giants, I mean the Googles and Salesforces and those sorts of scale of companies, but also lots of startups are starting to build specific agents. And based on the capabilities of agents and AI today, these agents are going to be quite specific to a particular task, right? They're going to be tuned to doing something for you, booking podcasts, finding flights, posting on social media, whatever it might be, right? They're going to be tuned to a particular activity. Over time, as AI gets better, you're going to see these AIs mature and go broader. So they'll be more general in nature and more like a general purpose assistant who can do, jack of all trades that can do all sorts of things. That's probably more in the 2028 and onwards timeframe. But for now, you're going to have these specialist agents. How do you find them was your question. You're either going to see them pop up inside the existing software tools you use today. So Salesforce.com is adding agents like crazy, right? Or you're going to see them coming from startups, and that's going to be a journey of discovery to try and find them. And yes, that's going to be, you go out on Google, you search, you do some analysis, you have conversations at the bar or the coffee shop with your friends about what you're trying, and that's how you're going to find them. It's the wild, wild west, and it's kind of an exciting time in a way.
Yeah. I love what you said about how the agents will work for us, because I think that kind of helps with the misconception that, everyone's job's going to get eliminated, because it's really, no, we're all becoming more managers than reps is kind of what it is, right? We've all just earned a promotion. Sure, some of the entry-level jobs, data entry, and I think that's where people like my son, who's 24 years old, and his generation that's just gotten out in the computer science world, and now the programming job isn't as prevalent as it was 10 years ago. But he, in an AI world, if he can take the job of being a manager and learning how to vibe code and learning how to do those kinds of things, it's a whole new world for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and we all need to think of ourselves as the CEO of you, right? You are now the CEO of a company that is you, and working for the company that is you are all these agents. They are now your employees, and put together, they are going to be how you present yourself to the world, how you show up in the world. So you use them to amplify yourself. Now, it's worth thinking about the fact that in my latest book, The AI Ultimatum, I talk about 3 different types of agents. And it's important to understand the difference between the 3. So the first one is sort of the obvious one. It's an offload agent. It's an agent that does something you don't want to do or don't have the time to do. And that's kind of just passing a task off. Hey, book me a flight to New York on Thursday. Find me the best price on a route that I like and a carrier that I use. Offload's fairly straightforward. The other 2 categories are much more interesting to me, because this is where a human partners with an agent, collaborates with an agent to get something done. So second type of agent is an elevate agent. By partnering with that agent, you are elevating your performance. You're amplifying yourself. And that's not just about your productivity, which I'm sure we will do too, but it's also, can you amplify my creativity, boost my intuition? Can you improve my decision-making capabilities? Can you expand my knowledge? So by partnering an AI with a human, you get something more, which is the combination of the 2 working together. So, for your son or anybody who's younger, they should be looking for ways they can amplify themselves using agents, because an agent plus a junior person is going to have the abilities of a much more seasoned individual that's not using AI. So it kind of levels the playing field a bit for newcomers. The third type of agent is really fascinating, and this is going to be rarer, but way more powerful. This is an agent that extends. So by partnering with a human, it extends their capabilities so they can do something they could not do before. Essentially turns them into a super person. And we'll see those coming as well. And that really changes the game and allows people to amplify themselves in ways that they couldn't ever before.
Nooks.ai is the agent workspace for intelligent outbound. By pairing human judgment with AI execution, reps focus on relationships, not busy work. Join Intercom, Deal, and over 1,200 customers who use Nooks AI dialing, coaching, or multi-channel AI sequencing to double their pipeline.
Yeah. Have you Do you have any examples of, one of those three categories? I mean, extend being the most interesting, probably. Is there a CEO who's done that? Is there an individual person, maybe yourself, maybe an example you could share?
Um, let's think of an example from a completely different industry. It's not about sales, and it's people designing things. There's a technology from Autodesk. Autodesk makes computer-aided design software, and engineers use that generative design capability, which has an AI in it, to design the bulkheads of the A320 aircraft. So this is some time ago. Whenever you ride in an aircraft, the bulkhead is important because it holds the plane together. Right? It doesn't just divide the pretty people in the front from the ugly people in the back. It's there to hold the plane together, structural integrity. So when you're designing that piece of hardware, you have to worry about tensile strength to hold the fuselage together during turbulence. So it's quite a complicated piece of hardware to design. It also matters that the weight matters on planes. United Airlines figured out that if every one of their passengers took Ozempic and they lost 10 pounds, it would save them $80 million in fuel. So it gives you a feel for how important weight is in the air. So when they were designing this bulkhead, they had all of these different parameters. It has to have 4.5 Gs of tensile strength, and it has to be as lightweight as possible. The design that they came up with, it's unfortunately I can't show you here right today, but it's in my book. There's a picture of it. The design is this weird structure, something that a human would never design. But the key thing to understand is the design that they came up with is a collaboration between a human and a machine. And the human designer came up with the initial design, and then the AI would riff on it and come up with literally thousands of variants, put them through simulation, and come back and say, hey, if you design it this way, it'll optimize for weight, tensile strength, all the things. So the AI couldn't do that on its own. What you get, the end result, was the collaboration of a human and a machine working together to get a result that was beyond what either of them could do alone. And so that's the kind of thing we should all be striving for, is to use AI to help us do things we could never do on our own.
That's neat. It reminds me of the telephone when I worked for Ring Central and they're putting unified communications as a service. And at first, they would ship the telephone that would sit on your desk because, well, you kind of needed a phone because that's just how we did it for decades. And then over time, it was, well, let's just give you a headset that plugs into your computer. And then over time, it was, do you really need a headset? Why don't you just talk to your computer? And now here I am just talking to my computer. I don't actually need a headset anymore. Actually, I am talking to I forgot. I'm talking to this.
Yeah. Me too. I have a microphone in there, so.
And I probably should have it closer. Yeah. But very cool conversation. When you're talking on stages across the universe, I guess Earth at this point, maybe someday.
Still limited to Earth at the moment, but you never know.
But you never know. What do people ask in the audience that are kind of some of the wildest questions that you get?
I mean, there are a lot of questions that come up regularly. People are generally afraid of AI, and I understand why. We all had, we've all seen the Terminator, and James Cameron scared the crap out of us, right? With Terminators from the future coming to kill us all, relentless killing machines, and the Matrix, and you name it. There's some dystopian Hollywood movie out there to scare us. So we've all had, from the pop culture, we've had this worry implanted in us. Plus, we're all worried about being replaced, right? Will AI replace me? So I get that, and I have to try to calm people and help them realize, yeah, there'll be some of that, but really, the old adage in the industry is, you won't be replaced by an AI. You'll be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI better than you, who is amplifying themselves more than you. So just stay ahead of that. The way to become robot-proof is to invest in your own AI acumen. Invest in yourself, learn about AI, learn how to use it. So I get that question a lot. I get a lot of philosophical questions, and the obvious one that I get from my audience is some version of, what do I tell my kids? right? How do I prepare my kids? What should they do? Should they go to college still? If they do, what should they do? It used to be that software was the bet. That doesn't seem to be it anymore. What should they do? And I always tell them, the best way to remain robot proof and to assure your own future, double down on your humanity. Invest in building the skills that are uniquely human. And in the sales world, it's negotiation skills, it's the ability to connect with another human, to get them to like you, to build relationships and nurture those relationships over time. That is something that humans can be really good at. And those are the skills that you need to go develop.
Yeah.
Those are the types of questions I get.
Yeah, I love it. There's a comedian in Austin that I've heard him tell the same joke twice. And he said, imagine in 10 years, if you use the word robot, and that may actually then be a bad word. So I've been minimizing my use of the word robot on these podcasts in case it becomes a bad word in 10 years. They're like, no, it'll be Sophia,
I mean, we're probably all going to have robots in our homes within 10 years. You can buy a home, you can place an order for a home robot now that will be delivered to you this year from a company called 1X. They're a Norwegian US company. So they're coming faster than most people think.
They're coming fast. I saw one at the Sphere, and there were a couple of them, and they had a translator. And so I tried to grab the mic from the translator, and they're like, no, you have to have the translator, because I'm sure, it's a pretty rudimentary GPT that's running on the back end, and they don't want you asking something stupid that then gets translated on the robot inside of the Sphere. So
they're pretty sophisticated. I think they're just careful with their hardware.
They're careful.
Because they're still a little brittle. They don't want it to fall over backwards because you've told it to jump or something like that, right? But, they are pretty impressive. The robots today are exponentially more impressive than they were just a year ago. And the CEO of Figure, which is a leading robotics company, they're currently, I think, valued at $39 billion, and I'm sure it will go up from here. He made a comment just before the new year, saying that he expects by the end of this year, you will be able to give a robot a sophisticated, multitask instruction that it can execute over a day, and it will do it all without any external support. It'll do it all using its AI brain. And that is a huge leap from where we are today. So I think it's going to surprise people what these robots can do just by the end of this year coming.
Yeah, without hallucination. Because in order for that to happen, you've got to have the right governance and right now, you kind of have to buy these advanced, sophisticated technologies. And I think all of that starts to become part of the LLM over time. And then you can put it inside of the robot. So that makes sense to me within the year.
Yeah.
Last question I love to ask is around the ethical side. And one person on this podcast out of 300 recently answered the question with, there's starting to be boards that are starting to answer this question, similar to ISO 9001. And they're like, yeah, there's starting to be these boards. So I always used to think, is it the CEO? Is it a government? Yes, it's all of the above. But the one that resonated for me is that these companies come together and form a standards committee to AI. And I was like, oh, got it. That sort of makes sense. Have you heard of those kind of committees that are starting to come together and form?
I think there's a recognition broadly that we need to do something, right, collectively, to be responsible in the way that we deploy this incredibly capable and powerful technology. So I think it's about being responsible, and that's at multiple levels, right? We want to make sure this stuff is safe, but also we want to be thoughtful about how we deploy it and where we deploy it. We don't want, if I'm dying in a hospital bed, I don't want a robot holding my hand, right? I want a human being to connect with. We want to make sure that we put robots, AI, technology in places where it improves the human experience and doesn't diminish it. So there's something about being thoughtful, there's something about being safe, there's something about being responsible, and that requires broad governance, but it also requires a conversation about how we want technology to shape our futures. And so, yeah, I think we need to have much bigger conversations because it is going to change the future of the way our economy works. It's going to change the social contract. And we need to begin that conversation today. When I was working at Google DeepMind, Sir Demis Hassabis, who's the CEO there, would talk regularly about needing a United Nations effort on AI. So we have a global conversation about AI safety and responsible deployment. So yeah, the conversations are happening. I've not seen anything really solidify yet into something that I think is going to have true impact, but we need it for sure.
It makes me think about a game show would be really fun, wouldn't it? Just to have a reality show with AI, probably a robot's involved, that just almost like a Seinfeld with AI that just causes the conversation inside the home. That's like, no. And then the husband's like, no, it's this. And the wife's, no, it's that. And, it just opens the dialogue. So there we go.
We need a dialogue on the future of AI. And as a futurist, I'm trained as a futurist to think about the world 5, 10, and 15 years from now. As a futurist, we fundamentally try and help people answer 2 questions. One, what is the future that we want to build? And we all have a role in helping to build that future. And then 2, what's the future we want to avoid? And we need to start having both of those questions and having it openly amongst us all. AI is going to change the way that we do everything. And we all need to be involved in that conversation.
What do we want to build and what do we want to avoid? And it makes me think about juries. Like AI could be the judge and jury. AI could be the referees in football games because I'm just so frustrated that the referee gets the call wrong every time. Yeah. And then you wake up one day and that's it. And you go, man, I'm so frustrated because now it's perfect every time, and it's what you got to.
Yeah, we kind of already have that, right? At Wimbledon, they have the magic eye, which is a piece of technology that decides if the ball was in or out. They've had that for over a decade. So
and do people
have already started down that path, but we have to decide, do we want an AI referee or not? And this is a conversation we all need to have.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's fun to graduate from the question sometimes. So, Steve, thanks for breaking all the rules today and making this a compelling show for our audience. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. And just a little plug because, why not? If you're interested in this stuff, the kind of things that I talk about, I wrote a book for leaders to help them understand AI, understand the different flavors, how they can use it to solve problems in their lives, in their companies, and to walk people through where AI is going next and how you get ready. So it's the AI Ultimatum. It's available on Amazon. Actually, if you move quickly, the hardback edition is priced at the same as the paperback. Amazon decided to discount it. So if you order it quickly, you'll get the hardback for the same price as the paperback. But it's designed for leaders to help them navigate what is going to be an incredible time of change. So that's my little plug at the end.
Outstanding. The AI Ultimatum. We'll make sure to move this episode up in the order so that this gets out sooner than later. So thank you very much for being here.
Terrific. Thank you, Chad. Great talking with you. Really good conversation.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining another AI for Sales podcast.
Thanks for listening to the AI for Sales podcast with host Chad Burmeister. This episode was brought to you by BDR.ai, Nooks.ai, and ZoomInfo, the go-to market intelligence platform. Nooks.ai is the agent workspace for intelligent outbound. By pairing human judgment with AI execution, reps focus on relationships, not busy work. Join HubSpot, Deal, and over 1,200 customers who use Nook's multi-channel AI sequencing to double their pipeline. And ZoomInfo gives your revenue teams the data and insights they need to find, engage, and win their best customers, helping you move faster, work smarter, and grow revenue at scale. Want an introduction to one of our sponsors? Head to www.scr.ai/intro and unlock your direct line to more closable pipeline, powered by AI. Until next time, keep leading the AI for Sales revolution, and remember, in sales, time kills deals. But in AI for Sales, AI kills time.